All right, guys, welcome. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here into the 2020 Spot Showcase, the culmination of the mentorship program. On behalf of the AIGA Orlando board, my name is Victor Davila, and welcome. Thank you for being here today. We're excited today. We're happy to be seeing the hard work that all these students have been working on with their mentors for the past 5 or 6 months or so. So this is an exciting night for us, and we're happy that you can join us tonight. Um, Usually this is the part where I ask if you've ever been to an AIGA Orlando function or an AIGA function, and I see some ask you guys to raise your hand, but in lieu of the virtual capacity, I'd like to give you a little bit of a rundown for what AIGA is. AIGA is a professional association for design. Our mission, not only in AIGA Orlando, but in AIGA in general, is to create a community where creativity thrives for everyone. And we have this long-standing belief with AIGA that together we can do amazing things, and that's why we do everything that we do. And that together sometimes can be in big groups, or like tonight, it could be that we're together but separately. We have 3 chapter goals that we format all our programming to. We try to nurture creative empowerment, we try to prove creative impact, and we try to unite people. And everything we do falls under one of these 3 tenets. And the Spot Showcase and the mentorship program is a really good example of one of those events that falls under all 3 categories. We are one of 75 chapters around the country with more than 25,000 members. And Florida has a distinction, along with Texas, to have the most chapters of any state. Texas and ourselves have 6 chapters. So along with Orlando, we have Tampa Bay, Tallahassee, Gainesville, Jacksonville, and Miami. And the nice thing about it is that if you find yourself in a community, in a city that has an AIGA chapter, you're immediately part of a community. You immediately find with your own kind of group, one of your own. So if you find yourself in one of these other cities, please look them up, because each chapter is amazing, each chapter is unique, and each chapter is doing amazing things. So we have some upcoming events that I'd like to share with you. Well, just the idea, we are working on a lot of virtual events that we hope to have announced in the next week or so through our Facebook page. So make sure that you follow us on Facebook so you can know what virtual events and events in general are happening with our AIGA family. So welcome to the Spot Showcase. So even though we've gone virtual this year, that doesn't mean that it's diminished the incredible hard work that these students have been working on with their mentors. So we are here to celebrate the hard work and to just thank everybody for being so adaptable, to being so hardworking in everything that they've done, especially with the kind of like the left turn we've had to take in the last few weeks. If you haven't seen the students' works already, on Behance, I invite you to go to the Behance page to this link and click on the 2020 Spot Showcase link to see all the amazing work that they've done. They have videos on there explaining the work, and it's just truly beautiful work, and I applaud everybody for participating in it. So I'd like to thank everybody who has been an integral part of everything that we're doing. I'm going to start with the judges: Andrea Pierce from Universal Creative, Dion Aiken, the amazing Dion, who is the architect of the Spot Showcase and the mentorship program as we recognize it today. Peter Sotullo from, I have Prismatic on here, but it's Full Sail University. Sorry, Peter. And then Clark Orr from Hellcats. So thank you so much for being part of our community and for helping us in everything that we do. And a virtual applause, if you want to throw up the little applause link icon, we'd appreciate it. So so we're obviously not at the Orange Studio tonight. We're obviously at our own homes, but the Orange Studio and Julio Lima have always been great partners with everything that we do, always so welcoming to their space. So even if we're not here, we would have been there tonight. So I still want to recognize the generosity of Julio Lima and the Orange Studio, say it loud, for their continued support with everything they do. So again, please help me give them a virtual thank you to them. And our sponsors, Hey Monkey, Lenny Terenzi from Raleigh, North Carolina, Mama Sauce, and Real Thread, Lure Design, and everybody that's been so helpful with everything that we're doing tonight. All right. So without any further ado, I'd like to welcome tonight's speaker. She's a legend in our community. I'm not talking very lightly. I actually believe everything I want to say. She's a legend in our community. She's a voice of my commute, my daily commute, where I listen to her podcasts and re-listen to her podcast. Some of my favorite things. Some of my favorite speakers and artists have been guests on her show. Fast Company has named her one of the most creative people in the business. She is an author of 6 books. She's an educator. She's a curator. She hosts Design Matters, one of the first and longest running podcasts in the world. She's an illustrator. She's a designer. She's a former president of Sterling Brands. She's a president emeritus of AIGA, one of only 5 women ever to hold that position, that rank. She is the co-founder of the world's first grad program in branding at the School of Visual Arts in New York. And she is currently with helping out with the Joyful Heart Foundation, along with Law and Order star Mariska Hargitay, to eradicate sexual abuse, domestic violence, child abuse, and the rape kit backlog. So with all that going on that she's doing, I'm super appreciative that she has taken the time to join us tonight to be our keynote speaker. If you could please welcome Debbie Millman. Thank you, Debbie, for coming in, and just give me a second while I'm gonna unmute you.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm gonna.
Hi, everyone. I'm dialing in from Los Angeles, where I'm staying with my fiance. I've been here for 5 weeks in quarantine with her. I have the landscape of New York in the background and the aerial view I took one day many years ago coming in from a flight to LaGuardia, but I put that up because it's my heart home. And so I just have this as my homage to my birthplace. So I was asked to talk a little bit just about my background, and then opening it up to questions, which I'd love to hear from you. But before that, I do want to say that I did go into the Behance folder, into the site with all of your work, and liked a lot of it, and gave a whole bunch of thumbs ups to people. Particularly love the chroma piece. That was really, really nice, and the typography and color palette is beautiful. So I will share my screen now, and hopefully that will work, because I tend to have lots of technological snafus, but hopefully I had to learn Zoom, take a crash course. Okay, so desktop. Can everybody see? Just nod so I know. Everybody's good? Yeah? Okay, good. All right. So I've been living for the last 58 years with really just one goal, and that was to draw and to write and to make things. I have never really been somebody that had big plans or big aspirations. I grew up in a really challenging time. I was really neglected for most of my childhood and experienced a lot of abuse. So when I was growing up, I really didn't have a sense that I could be anything, because I kind of felt like mostly I was nothing. But I did have this hope and dream that I could draw and write and make things somehow, some way. I like to show this drawing because this is something I did when I was 8 years old, and didn't know that I had drawn it. I actually didn't find this drawing until, excuse me, my allergies are acting up a little bit. I didn't find this drawing until I was an adult. I found this drawing about, I don't know, no more than 10 years ago. And when I looked at it, I realized inadvertently, without having any sense of anything that was possible for me, that I had drawn my whole future. This is a city scene of New York. So I am a native New Yorker. I was born in Brooklyn, before Brooklyn was Brooklyn. And then I lived in Queens. I lived in Queens till the middle of 3rd grade. And then we moved to Staten Island. And we stayed there until my parents got divorced. By the time I was about to start 6th grade, we moved, my mother got remarried and we moved to Long Island. I lived there for the rest of my junior high school and high school years, and then moved to Albany, where I went to college from 1979 to 1983. 1983, I hightailed it to Manhattan, and I've been there ever since until 5 weeks ago. But what was so interesting for me in finding this drawing was the notion that there I was, 8 years old, really uncertain about anything in the world, let alone my future, and yet I kind of drew it. So the girl in the middle is a little girl holding her mom's hand, and her mom is wearing a very popular outfit at the time, Tangerine Dream from Barbie, from a Barbie outfit. And then it's a typical New York City scene. You know, you can see the taxi and the bus and the busy people. But what I found so interesting about it was very clearly I marked the taxi. There's the word taxi on top of the taxi, and there's the cleaners and the bank. And but then I drew this delivery truck for Lay's potato chips, and yet I drew a logo. You know, at 8 years old, I knew the Lay's logo and I drew it. And then, 50 years later, I'm working in branding, living in New York, going to banks and cleaners and taking taxis and buses and drawing logos for a living. So sometimes I think you just have to follow the path that is set in front of you. So I have been drawing logos for a really long time. I've drawn some logos that might be recognizable. Spent a lot of time in Florida at the then Burger King headquarters, creating the Burger King identity and all of the packaging. The global identity for 7-Up, which is owned by Pepsi everywhere outside the United States. So the 7-Up in the United States is different, but this is the global Pepsi, the global 7-Up everywhere. And because I travel so much, or have traveled in the past so much, I've made it my mission to collect every single 7-Up that I've designed in every country I go to. The packaging sometimes gets a little bit mangled in the trips back home, but I still have the cans and the bottles. The Hershey bar, Twizzlers, and the totally twisted type that you might see there is type that I did by hand. So I created an entire typeface for Twizzlers out of my handwriting. Do a lot of work with my handwriting. Haagen-Dazs, Campbell's, and I've been seeing that can everywhere now in supermarkets. It seems like it's a lot more popular than it used to be, given that people are trying to plan for the possibility of food being a shortage in food, which thankfully I think there hasn't been. But interesting in terms of the Campbell's, I work with Karen Goldberg on the typography for all of this, for all of the Campbell's cans. Kleenex, Tropicana, which is a real beloved package. I worked on the straw and orange icon quite a long time ago. And then I've also been very involved with AIGA. I started getting involved with AIGA back in 2000, about 2000, and worked first within the special interest group. AIGA had a Center for Brand Experience. I actually got kicked off the board eventually because they didn't think my work was progressive enough. They thought it was too traditional. That really hurt. But ultimately got re-engaged when Emily Oberman on the New York chapter invited me to join her in the New York chapter in 2004. So that was really exciting. It took 4 years for me to be able to come back in, but I was glad I did. I got really slammed for work that I had done that was promoted by AIGA on Speak Up back in 2003. I had some work that was part of the AIGA 365 annual. I was a judge 1 year, I think it was 2001. And my credentials included some packaging that I had done for Burger King and Star Wars, and some folks on a brand new blog that I had never heard of. I actually didn't even know that blogs existed when this first came out in 2003. Slammed me and AIGA for being in cahoots. They called me a she-devil and a corporate clown. Little did they realize that I had actually gotten kicked off the board for my work being too traditional. So at that moment in time, I actually felt like the most hated person in the design community. The AIGA, the sort of very, very well-respected designers had kicked me out, and now the renegade designers kicked me out too. So that was really a hard moment. But what I didn't recognize at that time was that everything meaningful that I've done since came out of that experience. I ended up writing for Speak Up, and did my first piece in June of 2003 that I aptly called Design Regrets, about things that I've regretted in my design career. And then from there, I wrote a piece in 2004 about election graphics that had gone viral. It was the first time that anything that I did, that I experienced, went viral. And through that, I got a cold call from a fledgling internet radio network in November of 2004, inviting me to be a host on a radio show. And I thought they were offering me a job. What they were really offering me was an opportunity to pay them to produce a little radio show that I could host about design and branding, but I had to pay them to do it. But at the time, because my work at that point was so corporate and I was missing so much of that kind of earlier drawing and making things part of my life, I decided, why not? Let's make this. Let's make this new thing. Who knows where it'll go, and it might go nowhere, but I invested a little bit of money into doing it. And in February 4th, 2005, my podcast was launched. It was just an internet radio show that I then put up on iTunes at Bryony Gomez Palacio's recommendation. She was the co-founder of Speak Up, because the show was live and you could only listen to it live at the time that I was broadcasting, or when it was rebroadcast in the wee hours of the morning. And people that couldn't listen to either wanted to be able to hear it. And so I put it up on iTunes so people could listen, and that became inadvertently not only the world's first design podcast, but really one of the first ever. I've been doing it ever since for 15 years. I also had an opportunity through my work with Speak Up to start writing for print magazine, which had been a huge, huge dream. I wrote for every issue after the Speak Up incident, beginning in March of 2006, and wrote for every issue until print went out of business, and then recently was able to, with Steve Heller, Andrew Gibbs, Jessica Desio, Laura Desenfant, and Deb Aldridge, actually acquire the magazine out of bankruptcy. And so now I'm one of the owners. So I've written a couple of books with Steve Heller. He got me my first book deal, and I met him through an event that I went to because of Speak Up. So he helped me get my first book deal and wrote my foreword for the book, and just a bunch of others. As was mentioned, I started a master's in branding program also through Steve Heller, also because of that Speak Up experience 10 years ago. And we just recently relaunched our website, and JKR redesigned it, and I'm so happy with it. So progressive and messy and edgy and difficult, and my kind of design. My show has been on Design Observer for the last 11 years, and I have a very, 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 very big announcement that I'll be making about the podcast, but I can't share it yet, but I will soon, and I will let the chapter know among the very first people as soon as I'm allowed to mention it. That's my studio in New York, which I miss. It's at the School of Visual Arts in my Master's in Branding program. I, as was also mentioned, after getting kicked out of the AIGA and then re-invited through the New York chapter, I became president in 2009, and I was president in 2009, 2010, 2011. And I would say that one of my biggest legacies was making a promise to visit every chapter, and I did visit the AIGA Orlando chapter. I've visited all the chapters in Florida. And I did that because I wanted everybody to feel included. Having had my experience of being sort of rejected, I wanted everybody to feel like they had a place in AIGA. And then one of the other things that I did was put a lot of energy and effort in building AIGA's social media platform. And so I feel really proud of doing that as well. That's me with all the boys, all the boy presidents. In 2011, the show Design Matters won the People's Choice Award for the Cooper Hewitt National Design Museum, and got to meet this lady, and she smells really good. She's also really tall. And so other work that I've done for print, I became the editor in 2016, and then just recently acquired it, as I mentioned. And I still do a lot of illustration work. This is a cover that I did for American Poets. I do a lot of curation. This is a show that I curated at the Museum of Design in Atlanta called Text Me, How We Live in Language. And then last year I did a show called Look Both Ways, the illicit liaison between image and information. And that was at the SVA Galleries in New York. And then I just did a TED Talk, and that was a huge dream. It was about how symbols reflect our humanity, how our history with symbols reflects our humanity. And then I do a lot of work and spend a lot of time trying to change the culture around sexual violence. And I'm working really hard to try to eradicate domestic violence, sexual assault, and child abuse. I created the branding and positioning for No More, and then also for the Joyful Heart Foundation, where I'm now on the board. And our work has been, over the last 5 years, to eradicate the rape kit backlog in our society. I believe that the way we treat women reflects how we treat our species. And I feel very strongly that it's very, very important that we end sexual violence in our near future. I am on the board. So I've spent most of my life trying to draw and write and make things. And in doing that, I really hope that I could have mattered in this world in some way and make a difference with design and creativity. So that's just a little bit about me. And I'd love to answer any questions that you have. If you'd like to take back over the screen, I can answer any questions that come in through the chat.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Debbie. If you can unshare your screen.
Okay.
And we'll just kind of like, we'll keep it there so we can see you. And so if you guys, again, have any questions for Debbie, we'll go ahead and relay those questions. We can unmute you and you can ask her yourself. I'll go ahead and start to kind of get the ball rolling. And I do, again, I listen to you like every day when I've been commuting. So I feel really, it's like a weird feeling like interviewing you. It's like interviewing like, you know, Oprah or Kitty Couric or somebody who does it every day. So I'm trying not to mess it up. So here we go. So one of the things that we want to find out is that this is a mentorship program, and you have a career with a lot of different avenues and parts of your career. But I was wondering, as a teacher, as a designer, as an illustrator, what was your first experience with a mentor, maybe as a mentor or as a mentee?
Well, I was part of the AIGA Mentorship Program in 2004, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and mentored a young woman all through high school. We started together when she was in 10th grade. Oh. And so it was part of the New York chapter. And then I ended up helping her not only get into SVA, but also get an SVA scholarship. And then I helped her get a job after she graduated. Now she lives in the South. She doesn't live in New York anymore. But I also went to her wedding. And she's married now with a child and has her own business and works as a really successful designer. So that's my real big success story as a mentor. We also have a mentorship program that I set up at SVA. Mm-hmm. So the very first year of the program, one of my students really hit it off with Christine Mao, who's a fellow from the Wisconsin chapter and now part of the Chicago chapter. And Christine is actually the person that got me involved first in the No More work. We did that work together. And she hit it off with one of my students, and my student asked if Christine could be her mentor. And I thought, well, that would be great, but it's not fair for only she to have a mentor. It would be great for all of the students to have mentors. So we set up a professional mentor program. So all of my students actually work with a professional mentor from in the last 6 months of the program. So they get some guidance about how to begin to put their portfolio together and how to really go out into the world and try to find a better job. So that's been super important. And I think one of the biggest things that we offer students is that professional mentor experience. But I find that our mentors, because we have 27 mentors every year, I find that the mentors get as much from the experience as the mentee. And that was my experience as well. I still teach undergraduate classes at SVA in addition to running my graduate program, because I find that young people teach me more than old people. And I get a sense of what the world is and what their hopes and dreams are and what their concerns are, and just feel that young people have a way of looking at the world in a very fresh and innovative way that I wouldn't be able to get if I didn't have relationships with them.
Right. So it sounds like your mentorship philosophy is pretty long term. Like it's not
Yeah.
just for the program; you kind of stick with them for
Yeah, and
past
also my
marriage.
mentor is Steve Heller. Steve Heller is like my fairy godfather. If it weren't for Steve, I wouldn't have gotten my first book deal, which wouldn't have turned into any of my other books. And I wouldn't have the graduate program, the master's program. Now we're business partners in print magazine. And that all started from a mentorship relationship.
Okay. A few years ago, I think it was last time I saw you, we went to the AIGA conference in Vegas, I believe, and Michael Beirut was on stage, and he happened to mention, find a mentor, even if that person doesn't know that
Yeah.
they are your mentor, right? So did you make some sort of a formal agreement with Steve Heller, or did you just kind of like, okay.
And I still consider him my mentor, even though we're business partners, because I go to him with every major decision that I face for his opinion. And I also trust him. He tells me the truth. I know our relationship is long term, so I'm not worried about him not liking something that I might be doing at that moment. I'd rather know that something isn't as good as it could be than put something out in the world that he's pretended to like.
So on that note, when you're mentoring others or when you're getting mentored yourself, what are some of the key things that you always try to make sure that you communicate with each other?
Expectations. I think
Okay.
expectations is a really big thing. And I send all of my students a very long email, which I'm happy to share with you if you'd like,
Yeah.
which outlines what the responsibility is of a mentee. The mentors are giving of their time. They're giving their time freely. They're contributing to your growth. So the responsibility is really on the mentee
Yeah.
to come to every meeting prepared, to ask for homework or to ask for projects or to ask questions that lead to really important conversations, not to depend on the mentor to entertain or to fill up the time or to provide you with information. You want to be asking. So the relationship with a mentee to the mentor is really what sets the tone for the relationship mutually.
Perfect. Agreed.
And I'm really happy to share that document with you because it's something that
Please
I've
do.
added
And
time that I send to all my students. The mentor-mentee relationship is a mutual one. So it's not about the mentor giving, and the mentee taking. It really is there's a mutuality that needs to occur. And I find that the ideal relationship with a mentee and a mentor isn't about helping them find a job or about guidance, but about shared experience.
perfect. Well said. I like that a lot. Please, if you do share it, I'll make sure to share it with the participants of the mentorship program. We have a question from a mentee, Christina Wilk, asks, can you tell us a little bit about your process for creating full campaigns? And do you have any advice for getting started in the industry, in the design industry?
Well, my advice for getting started in the design industry is to make your own self-generated work. I really got started in the industry through working in branding, but that was a 20-year slog, a street fight to the top, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of the work that I'm proudest of and the work that I feel has contributed meaning is Design Matters. And that was something that I created on my own. That was something that I did and still do on my own. So I think if you're able to create work that helps introduce you to the community with your own voice, as opposed to just work for clients, I think that you'll be able to begin to create a reputation. In terms of starting full campaigns, it really depends on the size of the campaign. If I'm working on something global like Burger King, then we go to different markets to understand how the brand is behaving in various places. We interview consumers to understand what they would like to see from the brand, if anything, what they are getting, what they're not getting, what they hope to get. We start to look at analogous and adjacent brands to see what's happening in the competition. We do a lot of diagnostics in terms of really understanding the current state of the brand. Then we do a lot of projective work in terms of what we think we can do in the future. Then we go into global testing, which could last a year or more. And then we start to take some of the findings and create work that we can then further test and then ultimately take to market. So that could take 18 months or more. If it's something that I'm doing for the Joyful Heart Foundation, that is a much smaller in scope process, because I'm dealing primarily with a board and with stakeholders and with people that are participating in the foundation, but the work still matters as much. So that could take anywhere from 6 months to a year as well, because you tend to have to get buy-in from the people that you're talking to and from the people that are doing the talking. So it's all work that's super complicated. Branding is a participatory sport. You tend not to do anything alone. There's market research, there's design, there's promotion, there's strategy. There's so many pieces in it, but that's also part of why I like it, because it is something that requires a lot of understanding of cultural anthropology, of behavioral psychology, of business strategy, of economics, and of course, creativity.
So, and just to kind of go off of that a little bit, how do you define branding? Because I know this is something that you've even asked people on your own show, and everybody seems to have a slightly different definition of that. So in the way that you're talking about it.
I talk about it as manufactured meaning. Everything is a construct, and we manufacture meaning around something that then we communicate that value in that meaning to large groups of people to try to engage consensus. And we do that through deliberate differentiation. So it's initially, the first phase is manufacturing meaning around something. And when I say manufacturing, I don't mean creating lies. I mean, we're actually manufacturing a reality around something that we hope to then be able to communicate to others through deliberate differentiation between that and everything else. So that's what I think branding is.
Thank you. Thank you. We have another question from a mentee. Her name's Emily Walker, and Emily asks, hi there. Thank you so much for being here today. Are there any pieces of design advice you have found and held on to that remain true and apply to any project that you work on?
Don't lie. I try to follow Milton's 12 steps to hell a bit. Do no harm. Mm-hmm. Try to be true to your own beliefs, but sometimes that could be a little bit difficult if you are really scrambling to make ends meet. So I'm not going to say that I've ever not worked on something I'm not proud of, because I have. I've always tended to work harder than I ever felt that I really had to, because I never felt my work was good enough, and I felt like if I worked harder that somehow it would end up being better. But I don't know that would be some advice that I would give you to not do. Like, don't do that. Try and understand your value and worth, and work as hard as you feel like you should, not as hard as you feel like you have to prove yourself.
So how do you do that? You've talked a couple of times now about self-doubt, in your work, and so how do you get past that, especially in a no
I don't
just
have therapy.
fair enough, fair enough. All right,
If anybody knows, let me know. You
right.
know, read a lot of Brene Brown, you know.
Haley Wood is asking, hey Debbie, so excited to have you here. When you are hiring a young person to fill a position, what qualities set them apart from every other young designer that will get them hired? What makes us stand out in the crowd?
Great, great, great question. Curiosity. Looking to be engaging in an interview. I find that a lot of people expect again, sort of like the mentor-mentee relationship, they expect the interviewer to provide information, provide the energy. Come to an interview fully engaged. Show your passion, show your enthusiasm, show your intelligence. Your interview is an opportunity for you to shine. So you might be shy, you might be an introvert, all of that is fine. But don't hold back so much because you're scared of being yourself. Try to engage in the interview with as much energy as you possibly can. That is my biggest piece of advice.
Awesome.
Show your energy.
Thank you. Thank you. Myrna asks, hi Debbie, it seems like there was a dramatic shift from the corporate work you did early on in your career versus the more expressive work you do today. Do you think your early, more traditional design work helped establish the platform for the work that you do now?
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. I definitely paid my dues doing that work. And I'm not unhappy with that work. I love having done that work, but I did enough of that work. I don't need to do a lot more work for products that are in a supermarket or a drugstore. I still do a tremendous amount of brand consulting, but it's all pro bono. And I wouldn't be in that position if I hadn't done well in the corporate work that I did. Absolutely.
Thank you. Rebecca asks, Rebecca Rivera, what prompted the shift of focus from corporate branding to more awareness-driven campaigns? And how do you suggest we find work in designing for change?
Well, so I graduated college in 1983 and then spent the first 10 years of my career doing what I now fondly and affectionately refer to as experiments in failure and rejection. I mean, even into my early 30s, I was plagued by making one bad decision after another, whether it was relationships, whether it was apartments, whether it was jobs. I could not find my feet for the first 10 years of my career. And that was really hard because so many people around me were doing really well. They were, not only did they have good jobs, but then they were getting married and then they were having kids. And I was in my early 30s, living in a crappy apartment without a person, without a real good job. And I couldn't help but compare myself to all of those people. And it was really, really, really hard. I went through a very intense depression at the beginning of 1991, which ultimately was what prompted my going into therapy. So then the next 10 years of my career, so from 1993 to 2003, were completely consumed with the work that I was doing in branding. And by 2008, so really 15 solid years of nose to the grindstone, where I really wasn't making much of anything except then started writing and doing the podcast in 2004, 2005. So really a good 10 years of just 24/7, nose to the grindstone, making my work with branding at Sterling Brands. That was the first time I was ever successful at anything in my life. And so I was very intoxicated by that. And because it was the only time I'd ever experienced any kind of real success, that's all I wanted to do. And that's what I did for about 10 years, just nothing but that. Then the mid 2000s, I started to feel like I wanted to start making things again and did. And then in 2008, I got super lucky because I was partners with two other people at Sterling Brands. And one of my partners, the senior partner, the person who founded the company, had always been very clear about wanting to sell Sterling to one of the media companies. And when I started at Sterling, I asked for stock, and I was told that I'd have to earn it. And then because I was doing really well, I sort of, about 3 or so years in, by 1998, was really clear that I needed and deserved shares. It was really the first time in my life that I ever like put down the ultimatum, threw down the gauntlet. Like, if I don't get shares, I'm leaving. And I remember going home that night after asking and thinking, what have I done? This is like the only thing I've ever been successful at. Now, if they don't give me shares, I'm gonna have to leave. Thankfully, they did. I got 1% of 1%. And then ultimately over the next decade, earned a lot more. And then in 2008, when we sold, I was the second largest shareholder. So I was able to really get the benefit of that hard work in a way that fundamentally changed my life. I still have to work, but I can be much more discerning with what I do. And so that was the shift from working for salty snacks and carbonated soft drinks and fast food restaurants and yogurt and soup and orange juice and Kleenex and so forth, to then starting to work in education and activism.
That's awesome.
So all that being said, I still don't know if I've actually answered the question. That work gave me a foundation to be able to live the life that I live now.
Okay. Thank you. Kind of like a similar kind of topic for the next question. Mariana, who's actually one of our mentors, is asking, you talked about your failures at the beginning of the presentation and how they sort of pointed you towards where you are now. Did you realize that's what was happening at the time? And how did you find the motivation to keep moving forward through those difficulties?
I did not in any way think that that was ever going to be an outcome. I remember the day that I found the Speak Up article suggesting that I was a corporate clown and a she-devil, I actually left work that day crying. I remember thinking as I was walking home, nobody knew about the blog, but I was desperately terrified that my office mates and my employees, my partners would find it, and that it was casting a real humiliation on the firm as well as me. So I thought my career was over. I thought everything was over. I thought I'd have to find another career. I was so depressed. And ultimately, it did turn out to be the most important thing that ever happened to me. When people have asked me a lot, well, what gave you the sense to keep going? Why did you persevere? And so I've had to think about it a lot to find the answer. And ultimately, what I discovered was that my hope for something bigger and better was bigger than my shame at what I was experiencing. And so the hope won out. I had one extra molecule of hope. It's like antimatter and matter. We're here because I think there's been this discovery. There was like one extra molecule of matter as opposed to antimatter. I had one extra molecule of hope over the shame. And so I can still have both, but that extra molecule propels me forward.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Emily Fisher is asking, how do you deal with a creative writer's block, so to speak? Do you have a method of finding motivation when you don't feel inspired or motivated at the time?
Deadlines.
Deadlines.
Yeah, and because I'm always terrified of letting somebody down. So I experience quite a lot of writer's block. I'm experiencing a lot of writer's block right now with the book that I'm supposed to be writing, but I'm not experiencing writer's block in general because I'm doing a lot of other creative things. It's just I'm procrastinating doing that. And when I'm doing that, I sense that it's because I don't really want to be doing it. But intellectually, I want to be doing it. But I think something in my heart is saying I don't want to be doing it. So yeah, I procrastinate, do other things. And then ultimately, when I have a deadline, I panic.
So it's that little fire.
Mhm.
Hello. So pretty much what the students do in class just kind of continues going all the way.
You just get
Gotcha.
more crafty with the stories you tell yourself.
Awesome. Randy's asking, he's a mentee. Hi, Debbie. Do you think that it is more difficult to get work for someone starting their career later in life? Does ageism play a role in the industry, or is it all about the equality of the portfolio? I'm sorry, the quality of the portfolio, not equality.
Um, I do think it's about the quality of your portfolio and also the quality of your attitude. So I think there's a lot of isms. I think there's sexism. I think there's ageism. I think there's racism. I've experienced it all. My partner is African American, so I see racism on a daily basis, and I see white privilege on a daily basis. Um, I think that a lot of it depends on the quality of your attitude, but I also think that it depends on the quality of your work.
Okay. Thank you. I think a lot of people are reacting to the one extra molecule of hope line. I think that was the takeaway of the night. So, all right. So I have a couple of questions from my side, and as you may or may not know, I teach at the University of Central Florida too, and I'm just curious. I know that a big part of your work is Design Matters, and you've spoken about that. So, and I know a big part of your work now is SVA and the things you do at SVA. So I'm wondering, how has Design Matters and teaching impacted the direction of your work? Or has it? You know, we talked about a little bit about like what the students do for us and the energy that they have. So I'm just curious as to being exposed to all those guests or being exposed to all those students. Have you seen your work change from what it was before to like post?
Oh, well, it's changed tremendously because I don't do corporate work for for-profit organizations anymore. I don't think I don't think I need to. I think I've done enough of it, 25 years. And frankly, they don't need me to do it. There's great people that can do all that kind of work. So I don't want to do that work anymore. But I think that what has changed is my sense of what we're capable of. I talk to now on a daily basis people that are just starting out, and I talk to people that are the most creative people in the world. And the common denominator is that nobody has the holy grail of self-confidence that we're all looking for. Everybody has self-doubt. Everybody questions their value. Everybody questions their purpose. Everybody questions whether or not they are making a difference, whether you're 21 or 91. Actually, no, I'm going to take that back. The only two people I've ever interviewed that I think were just like really cool with who they are were Massimo Vignelli, the late Massimo Vignelli, and Milton Glaser. But they were in their 80s. So I think like when you're in your 80s, you kind of got it going on. But nobody. I interviewed David Lee Roth a couple of months ago, and I've talked about this in a number of different interviews because it stayed with me. He talked about, I asked him, so David Lee Roth was the lead singer of Van Halen, the rock and roll band. And Van Halen was, in the 1980s, the most popular band on the planet. That was it. They were so big. They were everything and everywhere. And as the lead singer, David Lee Roth was considered, one of the sexiest men alive or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so I said, what did that feel like? What did that feel like to be like the most popular person on the planet? And he said, you have to be careful when you're in those moments, because when you get to the top of the mountain, it's cold. You're almost always alone, and there's only one direction. And I thought, my God, that's so true. Where do you go after something like that? So I think it's absolutely, absolutely fine to take your time in your climb up the mountain. I hope I don't reach my peak until the day before I die. Like, I don't want to be in a position where my best work is behind me. Mm. So for everybody that's looking at all of the people that make it really young, think they're going to just have to keep hitting those home runs time after time after time. Get to first base, savor being on first base, then get to second base, then get to third base, then take your time walking home. because, then you don't play anymore.
One of the, somebody, Avery on the chat was asking about Sagmeister, if he was one of those people who is overly sure of himself or has it figured out.
Not at all. Reading my interview with him, it had to think like a great graphic designer. The opposite. He is so searching, so searching. He's an incredible human being. One of the most generous people I know. He gave me the interview. He let me interview him before he even knew me. Back in 2005 is one of my early interviews. I've interviewed him since several times, but definitely read the interview and How to Think Like a Great Graphic Designer. I'll send you a PDF of the book as well, so you can give that to the students.
Thank you so much.
But he's remarkable.
Okay. And then I just have a couple questions. I know you're running low on time, so I just have a couple questions from my side, from the event preparing. Because one of the things that I think a lot of your guests always say is like, how do you find out about these things? Or you're so well researched and you seem to have people telling you things that they don't seem like they would normally divulge to anyone, but your interview style is just kind of very intimate. And they tell you things that they might tell the priest or the doctor or something like that. So I'm just wondering, how do you research? How big is your team? And how do you get these people to talk?
Okay, so my research is not really, I'm always so curious because I don't hire a private detective. Like I don't call people's parents. I just do my research. I read, I look for everything I can possibly look for online. I get transcripts made of interviews that like on other podcasts so that I can read them really carefully and then have really good notes that I can refer back to. There's really no secret other than just preparing. I spend a lot of time preparing, probably 10 or 12 hours per interview. Maybe more if I have to read. And if they have a lot of books, then I have to read a lot. And then I try to create about 40 pages of notes, maybe more, that I then cull down to 10 and then create an arc of a narrative through questions that help reveal sort of the arc of their lives. As far as the interview process, my studio, I showed you that picture, it's really small. And my last studio to studio interview, so not in the booth, was with Krista Tippett several years ago. And I felt like while I liked that interview, I missed a couple of notes where I could have asked more, but I wasn't sitting in front of her. And so I missed some, what I consider to be really important points. And since then I've only done them face-to-face because I think that intimacy is really, really important. It's a small room, it's dark. I guess people feel safe maybe, I don't know. I think they know that because of my research, I really respect who they are and what they do. And so I think they feel comfortable sharing who they are.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, they definitely sound like they do. So, and then final questions. I don't see any more from the students. So final questions. It's a two-parter. What's your take on the creative industry right now, especially in these times that we live in? And what do you think the role of the creative person is right now, either globally, politically, or otherwise?
I don't think there's one role. I think that it really depends on who you are, where you are in your life, what you want to be doing. I'm not going to say that anybody should do anything because I don't feel qualified to do that. I think everybody has to do whatever they want to do. As I said, I've looked back on my career and some of the things that I've done, I'm appalled by. But I didn't have any money and I was really struggling and suffering in a lot of ways. So you do what you have to do. Did I do anything that harmed anybody? I don't think so, but I wouldn't do certain things again. I think people have to do whatever they feel they need to do to make the life they want to make, as long as they don't hurt anybody in the process. That's the only bit of advice I feel comfortable giving, because I didn't go to a great school. I can't say, oh, make your way to an Ivy League school at all costs. I went to a state school. I paid my own way through school. I came out of school with student debt. I mean, there's nothing that I can tell someone to do that I haven't done other than just work your ass off and keep your dreams front and center. As far as the role we play, I'm in a privileged position. I'm allowed to be an activist because I have enough money to be able to pay my rent. I don't want to suggest that anybody do anything that they can't or feel uncomfortable doing in their lives. Keep your dreams front and center. Try not to compromise till you're 30 because you don't have any real responsibilities now other than your student loan. And try to not take no for an answer if you want something badly enough. So that's the advice that I feel comfortable giving. Ask for things. Nobody's going to just hand you something. Don't wait for an opportunity. You want something, ask for it. If they say no, ask if you can ask again in 6 months, or keep in touch with people through self-promotion or through self-generated projects. Make the life you want to make. Don't wait for somebody to make it for you.
That's awesome. Debbie Millman, thank you so much. I could talk to you for hours, and it's been a really big treat for me. And thank you for giving us your generosity and your words of wisdom and everything that you do for our community. We appreciate you. And if you ever happen to be in Orlando, we'd love to have you back at some point.
Absolutely.
Hopefully that would happen, and we can
Orlando, because I promised my niece and nephew a trip to you-know-where. So
oh, yeah?
if that happens, I will let you know.
Oh, hopefully that will happen very soon, sooner rather than later. But you're welcome to stay on. We're going to give some awards, but I know that you have some family commitments as well.
Family stuff. We have a big family reunion Zoom that's happening, and they scheduled it after we scheduled ours, and they didn't want to change our, I wanted to be here with you. But yeah, my entire family is Zooming right now. So I told them I'd call them right after. But I do want to say that I did look at all the work in the Behance site that you put up, and it's great. And I'm very happy to come back if you want to do another one of these and at another time. Very happy to do a part.
We're still going to take you up on that. Thank you so much, Debbie. Appreciate it. You stay safe and stay healthy.
You too. You all too. Bye.
Best for your family.
Bye.
Bye. All right. All right. So we're back. I'm kind of giddy, people. I won't lie. I really like Debbie Millman. And yeah. So let me unshare my screen.
I'm just saying, silver lining to quarantine, Debbie Millman.
Debbie Millman, people. I'm so stoked. I really could have talked to her for like hours on end, just like, being all geeky and fanboy. Are we still recording this? Oh, we're still recording this.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Let me come back and be all professional. How you guys doing? That was pretty cool, huh? She's incredible. So everything that she said that she is going to send us, I will make sure to Shannon and I will make sure to pass on to you guys so that you guys can take that. So that was really cool. If you happen to be able to reach out to her, especially since she mentioned that she saw your work and she noticed your work, I would highly encourage you to say hi, drop her a line through her website, wmillman.com, and see what happens. Yeah. So where are we at? So let's share my screen again. And do you guys have any questions for us while I'm bringing everything up? What do you guys see right now? Blue screen? Blue screen? All right. Okay. All right, my people. So here we go. So thank you again to Debbie Millman. We'll try to edit all that fanboying that I did right before we came back, in the final video, hopefully. I still don't see the chat, so if you guys have any questions for me, go, somebody will relay to me. Oh, there we are. All right, guys, so now is the moment that we get to the awards and the prizes. And again, I like just to thank everybody for all their hard work and what we're doing. So we have several awards that we're giving out, and we have several different winners, but I just want to point out that these awards have in no way diminished all the hard work that you put in for the past several weeks. The work, generally speaking, has been wonderful and more than we could wish for. And I think that you know, it's a little bit bittersweet because I would have loved to seen what you guys did in the physical environment, but at the same time, I'm so impressed by you guys and the way that you've been able to adapt and kind of like take that left turn with us and be able to turn in like strong, incredible work. And you know, you had to pivot and you made it work. So, um, excuse me. I'm very thankful for all your hard work. Um, Before I move on to, so I don't forget, I'd also like to give a big thank you and a round of virtual applause to Shannon, because Shannon has been super working so hard and everything that she does, keeping up with the field trips and the student submissions and just organizing all this stuff. And then right before you guys had to pivot, she had to pivot and try to figure out exactly what that means. So I'd like to thank the whole team that's been working so hard for you guys. Shannon being at the forefront of the team, but it's also, I'm gonna say names, and I apologize if I forget everybody, but it's also Raina and Gina and Aaron and Gina. I said Gina twice, right? And Anna McCarty and Anna McCambridge, all the Annas and Trinity, just like the whole board has really stepped up to what we're doing. So please give her continued singing her praises. And yeah, sorry, Gina. So yeah, there we go. All right, so without further ado, let's get right to it. So first of all, we have the Mama Sauce Best Spot Color Friendly Award. All right, and this is, let me go down. This is a whole bunch of Mama Sauce swag brought to you by the fine folks at Mama Sauce and Nick Sombrado. So thank you, Nick, for being a great supporter of us in our community. And that's going to be Mama Sauce swag, I think I've mentioned. So the winner of that one is wrong screen. Sorry. The winner of that one is Nia, who is mentored by Tracy Padera. So thank you, Tracy, and congratulations, Nia. Hey. So we'll put you in contact. All the winners will put you in contact for the so that how you can claim these awards. All right. I'm trying not to click more than once and accidentally give things away. So this one's a special one, another special one, because it's also sponsored by a local company, Jeff Matz, who was also a mentor this year. And Lure always gives out the Fresh Eye Award, the Lure Design Fresh Eye Award. And that one is $200 and Lure swag. All right. So looking for a fresh design and fresh outlook on design. And the recipient of that award is Emily Walker. So her mentor is Lauren Waters. So congrats, Emily Walker. Okay. So this next one isn't one that we give all the time, and it's sponsored by Lenny Terenzi in Raleigh, North Carolina. And the reason is because I don't know if you guys know Lenny Terenzi. He's the president of the chapter at Raleigh, and he's an amazing guy. He's an amazing community supporter. He's a force of nature. And when he was a speaker down here, he started this particular award, which is a Perseverance Award. He calls it something a lot more colorful, but I don't remember exactly what it is, but I'm sure it has some colorful words in there. But anyway, this is meant for a student who has kind of overcome specific challenges in the whole process. And again, we've all had to overcome some challenges this year. But this particular student had a couple of unique challenges that kind of like stuck out. So this is it's PG-13 Zoom. So the recipient of this award will get so Lenny Terenzi runs Hey Monkey Design up in Raleigh. They do screen printing. So it's 50 one-color poster prints or 25 one-color shirts and a 30-minute mentorship session with Lenny Terenzi. All right, a little Zoom thing. So the recipient of that one is Logan Hernandez, mentored by Jeff Matz. So congrats, Logan. All right, I'm not screwing this up. Cool. All right, guys. So I don't think this one is a secret, because I think you guys could count the numbers the same way we could. But the recipient of the People's Choice Award, which is the Spot Award, if you were in the physical environment, we would be putting little round stickers on our cards. And this time we did it through the Behance platform and the appreciations. This person will get an AIGA membership valued at $50, $75 in cash, and one ticket to the 2021 resolutions for the general session and the workshop, non-transferable. And the recipient of this one is Laura Crocker. So good job, Laura. Mentor is Alexis Cummings. All right. All right, guys. So before we get to the last two awards, we have the judges' best presentation and best in the show. And I know that we have some judges here. We have Dion. We have Pete. I think I saw your name. I think Andrea is in the chat, and I don't know if Clark is. So Dion, Peter, Andrea, do you guys want to unmute yourself and say a couple words before we say the awards?
Hey guys, this is Dion. I just wanted to say that everybody did such an amazing job. I was just really impressed with the quality of work, how unique, and also how it was authentic. Like I felt like everyone kind of wanted to express something that they were passionate about or about themselves or that was meaningful. So that was super cool. And yeah, that's all I'll say for now. Good job. You guys are awesome.
Hey guys, first, let me say congratulations to everybody. Like Peter, I said, right? Yes. Damn, Vic, you can't see me? I had a great time looking at the work, all of the work. Kind of to piggyback on what Dion was saying, it seemed like everybody had a little bit of a personal input into what they were doing. And everybody kind of had a little different take visually and in concept. So I liked seeing all, the different approaches and, the different concepts to the project. So I was pleasantly enamored with all the work. So great job, guys.
Awesome. Thank you, Peter.
Yep.
And Andrea, I don't know if you want to say a couple words. I know you're having connection issues, so okay. So if you happen to want to say a couple words, if you can connect, Andrea, just go ahead and unmute yourself and kind of chime in. So let's talk about the last two awards. The first one being the judges' presentation award, and this recipient will get an AIGA membership valued at $50, $100 in cash, and one resolutions ticket for the general session and a workshop, again, non-transferables. So yeah, so the recipient of this particular, the judge's best presentation award this year is, wrong screen, man, sorry about that. Haley Keck, mentor, Ron Boucher. Congratulations, Haley. I'm kind of like bummed out too, because usually we bring you up to the stage and you say a couple words, we take a picture. So we're gonna have to take virtual pictures with you and your mentor at some point. So yeah, so congratulations, Haley. And then finally, the Spot Best in Show Award. This recipient will get an AIGA membership valued at $50, $175 in cash, one resolution ticket for the general session and a workshop, non-transferable, and a Real Thread prize, which is 36 shirts of up to 2 colors in the front. All right, does that make sense? So t-shirts, color in the front, up to 2 colors, courtesy of Real Thread. And the winner this year, oh, I'm sorry, this person, I'm afraid to, if your name happens to pop up, we'll go, but this person will also get the coveted Spot break. This isn't the actual break, people, because, we haven't been able to talk to people very much and we haven't been able to kind of like, but you will, I promise you, get an actual design break to put on your pedestal or your shelves or your doorstop, whatever you choose to do with it. Yeah. So it'll look a little bit different than this, but it will stay the 2020 recipients. The break will be in the mail. Hopefully we'll stay local enough so that we can just hand it off to you. All right. And the winner of this year's Spot Showcase is Myrna Pierre. So congrats. Your mentor is Ashley Taylor. And hopefully I did not screw up your name because I have, it's Myrna, right? Yeah. Right? Okay, good. So are you on here, Myrna? Okay, good, Myrna. All right, so there we go. Thank you, Myrna. I appreciate, because over here on my script, I had Mina, so I want to make sure I didn't screw it up because we'll edit that out too. So again, great job, everyone. A lot of great work. And I think the benefits, if I may say, of this mentorship program isn't only the great work that you've been able to complete, but it's also the work that the connections that you've made. I don't know if you noticed when Debbie was talking earlier about when I was a mentor in this program, the first time I met Raina was as my mentee, and we've been able to continue this kind of relationship where sometimes she mentors me now and I mentor her. Tibby Starks, who moved to Denver, she was one of my, Chelsea Dunn, who's one of my previous, and I've been able to keep relationships with these people, which have been benefited me just as much as I hopefully have benefited them. So hopefully BFS for life, exactly right. So hopefully you will continue these relationships that you have created in this program, and hopefully at some point become a mentor yourself when you get really into the program. A lot of the mentors that you've had this year have been mentors in the past, have been mentees in this program in the past years. So I encourage you to continue those relationships. Oh, I'm sorry, Dion's at Hilton. My bad. So one more time, I'd like to thank the judges: Andrew Pierce from Universal, Dion Aiken from Hilton, Peter Satullo, this time I got it right, from Full Sail University, and of course, Clark Orr from Hellcats. And then thank you, students, for being so amazing work. And as a teacher, I can say what really gets me going, one of the reasons I find teaching to be the best gig I've ever had is because of students like you guys. So, so thank you for that. Thank you for being amazing. Thank you, mentors, especially those of you who, not especially, those of you who did it for the first time, and those of you who've done it for multiple years. We appreciate all the hard work that you've done for us and our community and taking the time out of your busy schedules. So thank you so much for being amazing, and we hope you can do it again next year. And then for our sponsors, I want to thank Lure, Jeff, Sarah, Paul, and John over at Lure Design. I want to thank Mama Sauce, Real Thread for being amazing, Nixon Broadway, Mama Sauce, Cheryl and Will, and everybody else at Real Thread, Lenny Terenzi, the man, the myth, the legend over at Hey Monkey Design. And at some point, we will hang out with you guys again in person. But until then, I wish you good night. Thanks again. Wash your hands, don't touch your face. And hopefully we'll see each other sooner rather than later in person and have a big group hug. All right. Thank you all. Do you guys have any questions for us? Final questions? Okay. All right. Don't leave yet. Don't leave yet. We're going to take a group shot for those of you who are still here. If you can unmute your cameras and, well, you know what I mean. All right. Who's taking the picture? All right. I'm going to try to take, we'll take multiple. Aaron, Gina, and Anna McCarty, do you guys have a camera? Hey, what's up, Ash? All right. I'm going to take, I have to take 2 pictures. All right.
Okay.
So ready, set, go. All right. That's one. And I'm going to take the other one now, the other screen. Awesome. Awesome. Scott, I see a little bit of your face, but you're fine. All right, ready? 1, 2. There we go. My people, take care. Thank you all. Good luck. I'll see you guys soon.
Bye.